I'd like to call this meeting to order. And before we proceed, this is our very first meeting with our new chancellor, and I just want, before I officially introduce him, I want you to know that he has purchased a home in the Modesto area. He's living in one small room while they're refurbishing part of it, and his family, his wife and 2 children will be here with their dad and husband by the end of July. So please help me welcome our new chancellor, Henry Young.
Thank you very much. It has always been my intention to move to the community in which the district that I represent is located in. Due to that, one of the first things we did as a family was to quickly look for a house in this area. And we were very fortunate to be able to find a house just northeast of here in the Sylvan, I think, school district area, roughly Oakdale and Floyd, that vicinity. So my family is not here yet, but I promise you at the next meeting, I will ask them to be here and introduce them to you. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, there is no report out from closed session. We have 2 sets of minutes. We can approve them either individually or together. So someone's welcome to make a motion.
Move to approve.
Together or separately?
Together.
Okay, both together. And Abe, is that fine? All right. So we have a motion by John Rodriguez, seconded by Abe Rojas, to approve the minutes of the June 14th meeting and the June 15th study session. Before I take the vote, were there any changes anyone wanted made? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carried. One of the responsibilities that the board has is to appoint a secretary to the Board of Trustees, and that position falls to the chancellor. So if there are no objections, I will appoint Henry Young to be the secretary of the Board of Trustees. Okay, so that is complete. And I did not receive any public comments. Are there public comments? No. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the Board Policy Committee report. The Board Policy Committee meets on Mondays before the regular board meeting, and at this past meeting, we elected our chair, which turned out to be me, so I'm giving the report. Basically, Connie Chavez meets with us, and she did a wonderful job of summarizing what occurred. And just as an overview is that the committee, which is made up of Lynn Martin, Leslie Beggs, and myself, and we were happy to have Henry sit in on the meeting too, because there were times we needed his opinion. We go through each of the first reading policies and go through each of the second reading policies. And we did suggest changes to some and no changes to others. I think it would be more meaningful to speak to the changes that the committee came up with when we get to that part of the agenda. Okay, so then let's turn to the Board Finance Committee report. Darren?
The Board Finance Committee has not met since our last meeting, but we have a meeting scheduled for July 25th at 10 a.m. here in the district office building. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We have an accreditation update scheduled. I'm going to guess, I don't know, I'd have to ask the presidents, and I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up of this, you can think about it, but I'm not sure that after tonight we're going to need a monthly accreditation report until maybe October.
I would agree with that, and I just have one quick update, and that is, well, two. The ISA is done, and
Yay.
blessings tonight, we'll send it on its way. But we did receive the full team roster from the accrediting commission last week, and yesterday I spoke with our team chair, and we've already set up a time for him to come and do a pre-visit.
Okay, this sounds great. Any comments, Jill?
We also have received the proposed roster, and there were no conflicts on ours, and I have yet to hear from our chair.
Okay, well, let's hear from our VPs of instruction from Columbia and MJC to give us the final of the magnificent work that's been going on. You can decide who goes first. Or is he the only?
I'm not sure Brian is here.
Oh.
He's not. So,
Okay.
good evening. I don't really have much of an update except you've received our ICER, which is great, and I'll be here if there are any questions when you're having that as a discussion item. We're in the middle of prepping the package, which is the electronic package for them, so they can have a thumb drive of all the data, and so we're excited. It's been a really long process, and it's been a collaborative effort.
Yeah. And I should compliment you, James, and Brian, who's not here. The study session that the board had on accreditation the day after our last board meeting was very informative and very impressive about how much work has been done, the great effort put into the final product. So thank you. All right. Let's move on to the association reports. Do we have students? ASMJC? Okay, so.
Good evening, members of the board. I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July. Summer is well underway, and MJC is continuing with training and preparing for the school year. We're almost done completing our activity planning for the upcoming school year. Also, we are getting very excited for the start of the new school year. Sorry. ASMJC is very excited to be attending MJC's Foundation Summer Sonata next week. Our team will be volunteering as servers for the event, and it is one of our goals this year to make volunteering a very high priority. I'm pleased that ASMJC is already starting off so strong and has forged a great group bond. We are closer than I have ever seen during my time with ASMJC. We are getting ready to serve the students of ASMJC and have a great year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate that. Is Aaron here? Okay, so we'll.
I haven't heard from him, but I know that he got hung up at work yesterday, and he's working on a project that had run over time, so he may have got.
Okay, well, he can give us a double report next month if he wants. All right, then let's move on to CSEA. Debbie.
Good evening, board members. Welcome, Chancellor Young. Very nice to have you at YCCD. I was on vacation for more than half the time since our last board meeting, so I have a very, very small update. It is exciting now with the new summer session started. There's more and more students on campus, a lot more activity. CSEA did work with both colleges on reorganizations for more efficient operations. I'm a little nervous with changes, but classified professionals will do their best to serve our students. Each area of the classified professionals are working hard on summer projects to have classes ready and students enrolled and ready to go for fall semester. On negotiations, we're working through a few last details. The newly drafted language is improved for both the district and our members. That's my report.
So your members have voted on it?
No,
Oh,
we're still working through a couple
you're working on that. Okay, great. Any other questions?
questions. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For vacation.
It was a staycation. I painted my living room and refloored my living room. So, but it's nice. I love it. Thank you.
At the present time, we do not have a faculty representative to the board, so we'll move to the Academic Senate activity reports. All right. We will move to the Leadership Team Advisory Council, LTAC. Everybody just, all right. Well, Jim, take it away.
Speech teachers always love extra time, right?
I didn't say that.
First of all, I want to welcome Chancellor Young. I hope you really enjoy this district, and I hope you don't mind the heat. We're expecting some more heat coming in next week, but welcome to you and your family. So thank you for being here. And so I wasn't here last month. My wife had surgery, and so I needed to be with her. And so my report would have been that we had a negotiation session on May 19th. And then we pick up our next negotiation on August 10th. We'll continue after that. And then over the summer, some of the activity that the YFA does is to start preparing for new faculty orientations for the fall, as well as part-time faculty orientation. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. Okay.
How many new faculty are we going to have? Do you know?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Jerry has a list, and I don't know how many.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. And we will move to activities and announcements. First for Modesto Junior College. Jill.
Thank you, Chair DeMartini and members of the board. We have a short list this evening, but some exciting things have happened since our last opportunity to meet together. One being that 2 of our MJC men's track and field athletes won the state championship. So we have the champion in hammer throw and the champion in triple jump. And when I look at the numbers that these 2 gentlemen achieved, I am just amazed. I can't even wrap my head around being able to travel 50 feet in a triple jump. So congratulations to them and to Coach Demetrius Snare, who does a great job with our men's track and field. Our dance team was invited to perform at Jacob's Pillow, and not being a dancer, this is something that I didn't know a whole lot about, but in being at the baccalaureate degree program, I happened to sit at a table with someone who teaches dance, and I started conversing with her and shared that we had dancers performing there, and she was incredibly amazed. And so it was wonderful to have that acknowledgement by someone who does know that this is indeed a wonderful recognition of our dance program and the work of Kim Davis, who is just completing her 2nd year at MJC. So be interesting to hear about their trip when they return. We have a student who had the opportunity to participate in the NASA Scholars Program and even was on the winning rover design team. And this opportunity to be part of the NASA Scholars Program now qualifies him for NASA internships. And so a wonderful opportunity for our student, Caden Cuevas. And one of my favorite things about summer is all of the young people that are on our campus. And there are days when I see more people in swimsuits in Morris Memorial than I see in other types of clothing as they're coming in to pay for their swim lessons. And it's really exciting to see the service that our community education provides to our local residents in the swim program, as well as the many others that we offer. And also this summer, our GVM is very busy providing an array of summer opportunities for youth. And I'd encourage you to follow the link and check out some of the activities that they have ongoing this summer. And I would like to add my welcome to Chancellor Yang. You just moved into my neighborhood. So welcome.
Thank you, Jill. Angie, let's hear about the activities and announcements for Columbia.
Okay. Well, over the summer, we too get a slightly different clientele, and it's at the time when we try to bring a lot of youngsters on to the Columbia campus as well. This year, we weren't able to host the basketball camp on campus because of the work that was going on in Oak Pavilion, but there was a wonderful photo in the newspaper about the basketball camp that's being held at Sonora High School. Robin and his crew are teaching the kids there. Mad About Science is an exciting event that we just host, but we have a lot of volunteers that get involved, and that is the 3rd through 8th graders working with science professionals, and that's always fun because there's always a lot of energy when that age group are on campus. It's July. We're already halfway through July, which is kind of scary to think about, but then that means that we're planning August, and as you can see, our in-service day is August 24th. We've already planned out the program for the day, and we'll be welcoming Chancellor Young on that day too. And end it with, I need to let you know that Aspire, we were awarded $20,000, a grant from AT&T, their Aspire program, to assist foster youth going to school. And you see there, we have the date they were going to come, and we were going to do a sort of a press release promo on August 29th. We just found out that date needs to be changed, so I'll let you know when it is, because we would love to have some board members for that event. And that's my report.
Thank you. For those of you in the audience that just are involved with MJC, you probably don't get the emails that come to everyone at Columbia College, but the board members get those. So I do want to ask if there's any update on the bear on campus.
The bear's presence is no longer obvious. Meaning it hasn't been cited
Oh, okay.
recently.
Well,
We do have bear activity. We do contact Fish and Game, and then they either send a trapper to help us catch. Most of the time, the bears are there looking for food, so we start then making sure that we shut off their food supply. This bear, I'm told, was the mildest that we've ever had, in that he just seemed to just roam about, and we think that he was looking for a girlfriend. So, only got into the trash a couple of times and wasn't destructive at all, but he has not been seen lately, so we think he's moved on.
well, thank you for that update. I appreciate knowing that. Okay, at this time, we have.
You're going to change the name to the Columbia College Bears? Was
Yeah, but
that a
then-
rumor? Or?
Yeah, but then the mountain lions might object. Okay, at this time, we'll have presentations and updates by our Chancellor, Henry Young.
Thank you. I just have a very brief update. I just want to start off my tenure here by saying how excited I am to be here. What a great honor and a privilege to be in this capacity for being your chancellor and serving you. I always believe that leadership always means service first. So it is my goal to make sure that all constituent groups are served and treated in the best manner possible, because unless we treat our human resource well, we cannot expect our human resource to be able to perform at the optimal in serving our students. So with that, I would say that I'm so glad that the summer program is going well at both colleges. Sometimes we don't see the importance of the summer because it is in between the academic years. But for the students, the summer is important because it gives those students who are aspiring to accelerate their roadmap to completion an opportunity to get a head start. And for those students who did not do well the year before, an opportunity to enroll and catch up. So my thanks to the faculty and staff and the management at both colleges for starting off the summer well, and I'm hearing good reports on enrollment. The other things that I just want to mention is that I have been incredibly impressed by the culture of the people that I have met. Everyone is so friendly, welcoming, and accommodating that I would say, without exaggeration, this is the friendliest place that I've been to in my long career in this business. And I've been at different places before, all right? So I hope we will continue to maintain the unique culture that is distinctly YCCD. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Next, 5.6 is grant activity update. We've received as an information item, information about 5 grants that have been submitted and one that has been funded. Are there any questions or comments from the board members? Okay, let's move then to the consent agenda, 6.1 through 8. Is there anyone who would like to pull or discuss any items on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 6.5, is it 5? The reorganization.
Okay, and do you want to pull it
For discussion.
For discussion, okay. I would suggest that we discuss, does anybody else want to pull anything? What would you like to pull?
I concur with Leslie, 6.5.
Oh, okay. For discussion or for, if it's discussion, we can discuss it without having a separate vote, unless the discussion leads there. All right, let's discuss it and see where it leads us before we have a vote. Leslie, would you like to begin?
Sure, I didn't know what the order of things is. First off, I'd like to thank Henry. I had questions about it, so I asked and I got answers. But for the sake of the people here, it helps to know that we actually ask questions sometimes. And we didn't know about the reorg until we got our board packet. Although Angie had mentioned it in her letter last month, but I didn't know about the one at MJC. I want to clarify that. So it was just a miscommunication. But anyway, I was looking at the accreditation report that we keep hearing about and reading, and it said under Standard 4C2, under Analysis and Evaluation, consent items are singled out for separate clarification, discussion, and vote at the request of individual board members. So here I am doing it. So thank you for that bit of guidance for us. So my concerns with it, which as I said, have been answered, but and Jill's very nice, she answered a lot of the questions that I had already. But what I had said was that in general, this is a far-reaching thing, so to me it shouldn't be on a consent agenda. It should be a presentation that we know about, but I think she thought we already knew about it. But the questions that I had was, for instance, one of them was, we are not being told what was accomplished by the Dean of Student Equity and the Director of Basic Skills, but we are already eliminating these positions and shifting these 2 people into a Dean of Student Services position and a Director of Student Services position, meaning that we now have a Vice President of Student Services, 2 Deans of Student Services, an Associate Dean of Student Services, and 2 Directors of Student Services. So my question was, how does it improve our efficiency and accountability to change titles from specific to general? And then Jill, do you want to give your answer so that our folks here can know? Because she does have an answer.
Certainly, thank you. So one of the things that we are very familiar with in community colleges is change. And it comes from a variety of places. And since the Student Success Act of 2012, there has been a tremendous amount of change in the student services arena, both in how we are funded, what our accountability measures are, and the specific responsibilities that colleges have in delivery of student services in support of our students. In addressing the requirements set forth in that act, the state of California Chancellor's Office created student success and support program plans and student equity plans in which colleges set forth the activities and the goals or outcomes that we were going to achieve through those particular activities. And it really was a total transformation of those activities that had previously been known as matriculation. And so it turned everything that we knew about student services a bit on its ear. And colleges and districts scrambled to address this new paradigm. And we were among them and took advantage of the opportunity set forth in developing our plans to assign people very specific tasks and responsibilities in those areas to make certain that as we were engaged in this new work, that we had clear designation of who owned those processes. And what we have since learned is that the state of California, in the chancellor's office, they have listened to the colleges, and it's been very positive. And what they have heard is we are struggling to manage student success, student equity, and basic skills as separate and unique. And so the new plan is that we will have a combined plan for this next academic year. And we are not going to think about those services in support of students as separate and distinct. What we are hoping to gain is some flexibility so that as the state chancellor's office changes and morphs over time, we have the ability to change and move roles and responsibilities to better meet the needs of our students without bringing forth yet another round of changes of titles. None of the responsibilities have gone away. They're being redistributed.
Do you have more questions, or is...
No, I mean, this is all very helpful, and I'm glad you're explaining it. And I understand that initiative fatigue is a very real thing. And I don't know what's going to happen with the next round of initiatives, but how long do you foresee this particular flexible structure lasting?
James? I'm going to be honest. I'll tell you, there are challenges with having more generic titles. It makes it really easy for someone who is a high performer to get everything.
Yeah.
Right? And you load it on them, or they're the one that everyone contacts because there's not clarity about what belongs where. And James and I have had some really frank conversation about the importance of bringing clarity to what is assigned to each individual and making sure that we spell that out internally, we make it clear externally, even though that we have more generic job titles.
Talking about the director of grants or something else?
Director of grants is gone, right? So part of this is we've never had at this college full student support services on both campuses, and so now we have A&R, we have financial aid, we have half of our general counselors on this campus, and so we're at full capacity in both areas. And so structurally, it makes sense for us to have a similar kind of structure on each campus, where we have a director, right, and we have a dean that we can assign certain kinds of tasks. So we had a real discussion over the last month about like what would be most efficient. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure this is going to completely get us where we need to be in a year. We may revisit this, and I may be going to jail saying I don't know that we can do it with the administrators that we have. We are going to try, and we have great folks in those roles. I think as well the college may shift with us looking at guided pathways. If you look, this has some impact in instructional areas, and we'll see how we work as a college collaboratively with all of our constituent groups to see where and how it might best fit together in a year or going forward right now, I feel comfortable with the team that we have
Mhm.
and being able to say, like Florida, who has been our Dean of Equity, has been also overseeing TRIO, has also been overseeing other areas, so she can take on
Mhm.
those roles. So this was the best structure we could come up with.
Well, you answered my next question too, which was about reassessing this down the road, and you're already thinking that way. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And also this with the basic skills or the other questions you have, these like silos, we assessed that particular position, and to be honest, faculty have been great. They've run with basic skills and transformed it in English,
Mhm.
and I think Matt's asking similar questions. So did we need someone 100% committed to that, or would it make sense for us to make a director of student services that could maybe do a little bit of basic skills but help us with our access and others, and have the basic skills funding go more towards helping to support tutoring, for instance? So that was our rethinking, and part of this was shifting around to make sure that we had as much student support as possible.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, my question's for Jill. When you say you're struggling to manage services that are separate and unique, what can you elaborate?
So when you put side by side the student equity plan, the student success and support program plan, and the basic skills plan, there's lots of overlap. And there are lots of support services that assist all of those areas. And so it's very difficult to then report them as separate and unique. And the accountability for how those are separate and unique, and even being able to determine, well, you got this wonderful outcome, but what brought us there?
Monetarily, how does this affect us?
We have a small annual savings of $9,000.
Do you know what you'll be doing with it?
No, not in particular.
Although I'll take it.
Are there any more questions? Well, I'd just like to comment that because of the questions, I've learned a lot. So I'd really like some thought to go into that perhaps future reorganizations should not be on the consent agenda and should be an action item. I'm not going to say definitely do it, but consider it. Think about that. Okay, a motion would be in order to accept the consent agenda.
Oh, I have two corrections really
Oh,
quickly.
I apologize.
No
Go ahead.
worries. Page 2 at the top, appointment administrator classified, Trevor Carter. The start date is 7/17. And then down in increase of assignment for Donna Johnson, that won't be effective until 8/1. And the last change is on page 4 to remove Rebecca Elizondo. And I did want to make one note. Even though we are appointing Michael Igo as an adjunct faculty appointee, he is in fact a manager, and he will be doing counseling services for no compensation because he already gets a management salary. So I didn't want people to think that he was getting a second job assignment. That's not it. He's going to be uncompensated as a counselor. And then the last thing is, you may recall, we are appointing a cabinet member, Mr. Lee Johnson, Vice Chancellor of Information Technology. His start is 8/1. There's no change there, but the new government code requires that we report in a public session that his salary placement will be $182,990 annually. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved by Don Viss and seconded by,
I'll second it, but before we get to that, Abe, did you want to, or one retirement? No, you do it far better than any of them.
And I'm scared away by the bears.
Okay, it's been moved by Don Viss and seconded by Darren Garrett that we move the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The motion has carried. We'll move to 7.1, action items, the board policy on the second reading. And Connie we'll take the comments from you, and if there's something that came up in the committee meeting that needs explanation, we'll offer that.
Thank you. Is this on? Can we hear me? There we go. So we were workers in our policy meeting on Monday, and we do have quite a few comments and revisions to bring to you, so bear with me. On the second readings, and you have those in front of you, where we request revisions, they're in red. We have 10 total this evening for your consideration with 3 revisions. So if you're okay with it, I'll go ahead and start with 3515, reporting of crimes. When I last was here in May, we discussed reporting of crimes, and my recollection was that we would go ahead and use the verbatim wording from Ed Code Section 67380. And so took a look at that and replaced the word any with the word and. So it's kind of hard to see the strike through with the red font, but we are replacing that word any with and.
So I got too many papers here.
Would you like me to read that for you?
Read the first sentence of what you're proposing.
Sure. The chancellor shall assure that, as required by law, reports are prepared of all occurrences reported to campus safety and security of, and arrests for, crimes committed on campus that involve violence, hate violence, stalking, and so on. So this is verbatim from that Ed Code section. At our last meeting in May, we also talked about reports for crime statistics, and we talked about Trustee Garrett had received those reports, and I think maybe through April, January through April, but that other board members were interested in those, and I did check back in with staff, and those are being prepared for May and June. They'll go to the chancellor's office and be disseminated to the board if that's the request.
And just to clarify, and those will include not just crimes for which arrests were made, but all crimes reported, correct?
Crimes reported that are here listed. So that would be violence, hate violence, stalking, theft or destruction of property, illegal drugs, and alcohol intoxication. Okay, it's my understanding. Good. Even better. Thank you, John.
That's what we were looking for.
So are you happy with that wording?
It's verbatim.
It is verbatim.
So it's written in Ed Code.
It is.
Code.
I had them
Jargon.
side. I had others come in and just eagle eye that with me, so it is verbatim.
But as a result of that, we will get information on crimes where arrests took place and crimes where arrests didn't take place. That's what we want. Is that correct? That's what we want. So does... 15 cars were broken into? Yeah, you're going to get that. Yeah, you're going to get that. Okay, even though there were no arrests? Yes, yes. Okay, let's go on to the next policy.
Thank you. Thanks for working with us on that one. That's been a couple of months, so I'm glad that we were able to meet the need there. The next one is going to be weapons on campus, 3530. And the change here is not in policy. This actually is a recommendation to admin procedure, so it's really just admin procedure, but really in the review of it, thank you for the recommendation here, and that is on line 5, the first page of the AP, that we included an exception for color guard rifles. So we say no weapons are allowed on campus, including facsimile firearms, but then we caught the fact that, oh gosh, we might have color guard rifles that are here. So we want to make sure that there's an exception for that. So that's where the AP has been recommended for change. And the next one is intellectual property, 3715. So some of the discussions that we've been having in the board policy meeting of the Monday meetings is that we want to have more affirmative statements in our board policy. And so we've added that for this particular one. And that reads, the board values the intellectual property of others and therefore directs the chancellor to develop procedures. So those are the changes recommended for the second readings.
Are there any other areas for the second reading that any board members would like to discuss or propose a change to? Okay, then we need to vote on the second readings, don't we? Okay, is there someone who moves that
So moved.
the board will adopt the second readings? And it's moved by Darren Garrett and seconded by Abel Haas. Okay, with no more discussion, all those in favor of adopting the second reading of the board policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carried. So now we go to the first reading.
Okay, the first reading, we have 10 total for your consideration this evening. We have 4 that revisions came forward for discussion, and also we have 3 that we'll ask for a little bit of board discussion and direction on. So if you're comfortable, I'll go ahead and start with 3-8072, unattended minors. And you'll see in the policy, we're just doing some editing to clarify the language. So it would read, minors found on campus without legitimate business or without supervision of a parent or guardian will be regarded as unattended minors and are not allowed on campus, and so on. So we strike through on that second unattended minor. So that's an edit that just helps to clarify.
Okay, let's go to the
And
next
the
one.
next is 4-8074, human subject research protection. And that one, at Monday's meeting, it was noted that the procedures for each college had gone through a pretty lengthy development and review process. It was definitely inclusive of the participatory governance model, and it relied heavily on the expertise of faculty through faculty senate representation. So it was requested at Monday's meeting that the board policy reference that accordingly. So looking at the references to other board policies and how academic senate is involved, we went ahead and made those 2 references, added those, which are 2510, participation in local decision-making, and 7-8049, academic senates.
I think it's important for board members to understand that this is the first board policy that I'm aware of that is not a district-wide policy. There's a Columbia policy. I mean, we have an overall arching board policy, but the procedures are, Columbia has their procedures, MJC has theirs, which is unusual to most of our board policies. Just want you to be aware of that. But this is a lot of it under the purview of the academic senates, and we have 2 academic senates, so that actually makes good sense to me.
So that was that one. Are we okay to go on to the next? That would be 5220, shower facilities for homeless students. Again, making those affirmative statements in the policy and how the board wants to conduct their business. And it says, the board recognizes that homelessness is a major social issue and reflecting concern for our community, directs the chancellor to establish procedures. Questions on that one? If I'm moving too fast, let me know. It It does not say whether they're male or female, but the shower facilities offer, both schools have shower facilities that offer for male and female. So we didn't identify male showers are here, female showers are there. We didn't go into gender at all. Thank you. Okay. The next one is 6300 fiscal management, and this one you don't have any revisions requested, but what came forward at our board policy committee meeting was a request from Trustee Garrett through Chair Ann DiMartini, and that request is that the board pull this from consideration for this month and bring this policy into our newly formed board finance committee so that that committee can review it and have input before it comes back again to the full board. 6300, 6300.
Fiscal management is the title of the policy.
And that would be the same case with the next one, which is 6340, bids and contracts. So pending your direction, those two would be pulled from your consideration this evening and move over to the board finance committee. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to 7400, staff travel. And the recommendation on staff travel, first, again, some eagle eyes here, good proofreading on the AP, so thanks for that help. But this is a procedure not necessarily for board approval, but we thank you for your recommendation there. So that's on the first page, line 18. We actually did some hyperlinking to our travel guidelines and added the federally funded grant travel guidelines and hyperlinked those as well. So it's really easy for folks to go on and see those and hyperlink to them. So that was the AP. Now on the BP, the board policy, the recommendation from the board policy committee or the requested revision is to rather on line 16 read all travel outside California must be approved in advance by the board. So at this time, the chancellor can approve travel outside of the state. And then if there's travel outside of the country, the board must approve that in advance. That I'll
At a great amount of money, and then we question whether he goes out of state or not on expenses. He should have the freedom to go if he will. If he wants to attend a conference out of state, why do we have to approve it? I mean,
Abe, we were saying, we weren't speaking necessarily just to the chancellor, but if our employees are going to conferences out of the state of California, the board should have to approve that.
why? I don't understand why, because we have a process. We've had it for years, ever since I've been here. We have a process that they go through. They have to be approved by the particular department, the dean, the vice president of instruction, or whatever it is. Then it comes over to the district office, and it goes through a series of clearance. And what is it? We don't trust that they are going to attend the conference, or?
No,
And it just delays the time in which sometimes, you know,
we can certainly
time that a conference comes up. I wouldn't be in favor of that, but that's me, because we have to put trust in our employees, and we have a process in line that tells us what we're supposed to do and the process that we go through in order to make that approval. So I don't really see the necessity for having that in there.
Well, I think we trust, but we are charged with oversight, and I don't think it hurts to know about it. And I think if there was any sudden conference that came up, that would be a different issue, but I don't think there's anything wrong with us knowing about that or anything else for that matter. That's why we're here.
I don't think there's an oversight on that. Like I said, I think we have to put some faith.
Because as voters, or as representatives, we're accountable to the taxpayers, so we should pay attention to what we're doing.
Well, that's in all our cases. That's not just in that case. It's everything that we do. You want to be transparent in everything as much as possible, but yet when we have a system that relies on the trust that they're attending conferences that are required in order to further their profession or whatever the situation may be, I think we have a process that shows transparency, that we can prove that it went through a process of approval.
Well, as far as that process goes, I had asked for the report that we are supposed to get according to this policy, the travel report. I had a really hard time getting one. So as far as getting these reports and getting this information, I don't think anybody's thinking of turning anything down. It's just nice to know.
Well, to view the reports, if a person goes out of state, there's a process that they all go through. Now, do you suspect somebody of misusing that, or why do you think it's not transparent if they go through the process that goes through every step that has to be approved, even through finance? So
you could make that same argument about going outside the United States. I mean, everybody draws a line somewhere. We're just drawing it a little closer in.
I don't, sometimes it costs more to go to Southern California to a conference than it costs to go out of state.
It's true.
I have people that go to Hawaii, and it would have been cheaper to go to Los Angeles. I mean, would have been more expensive to go to Los Angeles than it does to go to Hawaii. I mean, so
that's true.
I think it's a matter of process that we have, that we're showing transparency by saying that whatever travel is approved has to go through a certain process. And that process is mannered to anywhere from 5 to 6 people that's been in the past. So I don't really buy the argument that it doesn't show transparency.
Okay, Abe, I think...
That's just my opinion.
No, this is something that we can have the board vote on, just this particular thing. But also, if you look in line 24 of the policy, it says the board will receive a report of staff travel expenses on a monthly basis.
That's what I was referring to.
I've been here 15 years, and it's never happened. So we need information.
So I did check in with our executive staff on this, as I try to do when I hear from you guys, go out, see what are we doing. My commitment to you is always we're going to go ahead and say what we do and make sure that we're doing what we say, right? So I went out and checked with executive staff, and I would like to relay that the current approval process does include a fairly extensive internal control system, including a number of levels of administrative approval, as Trustee Rojas pointed out. As such, changing this may cause a significant disruption in terms of timeliness and being able to approve travel for out-of-state needs. And the staff did respectfully request that the current practice that the chancellor approves out-of-state travel remain in effect, and also volunteered to have our executive vice chancellor come to our next board policy meeting and really review with you what that internal control system looks like, all of the levels of approval, and then also talk about those reports and what we're looking for there, so that we can be in alignment with this policy and provide the reports that we need to provide to you.
Okay, let me rephrase that to see if I understand what you're suggesting. You're suggesting that the board make no changes in this first reading, but wait until the next board policy meeting where the executive vice chancellor will be there to inform the three-member committee of what goes on, and then at that time, the three-member committee could decide to recommend whether it's no change or change to outside of California.
Maybe at that time also you can give us an outline of what a person does in order to go. What process steps does he have to go to finally get approved to attend the conference? I would like to see that, because right now we're just assuming that, in my opinion, we're just assuming that that's no transparency there, and I think that, to me, if we show what the process entails, then we can always show that as transparency. The amount of money doesn't really come into this point, I don't think. I think it's a matter of saying that we have a process that allows us to be transparent. And that's all I'm saying. Because I think right now you don't know what it entails
I think we have in reading this, I think we have a travel policy that is still very open and flexible. And I mean, I don't know how many travel requests we get that people are going out of state. I can't imagine it is a large number, even during the academic school year. And that if the presidents or the chancellor needed to bring forth at our monthly meeting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 people, or however whatever the number is, and say these are people are going to this conference in whatever state, it could easily be accomplished. But I have worked for government agencies where their travel policies, you would be surprised how restrictive they are.
I know,
Very,
I worked for the city
very
for years,
restrictive.
for 25
And I
years.
do not recall at any time working under those guidelines where someone was denied the ability to go to a conference at all. So I mean, I just can't imagine, like I said, even during the academic year, where this would cause an immense disruption in what our goals and what we're trying to accomplish. I just don't see where it would.
I don't
I
either.
don't see it either, but maybe from a different perspective. But
And so maybe when we bring forward that information, regardless of where we decide on the language tonight or what we want to do there, either way, we can still have that information brought to the board policy committee that steps through all of the approval levels and the internal control system that is in place, so that will help maybe provide some information and understanding about how long a travel request takes to go through the system and how much internal control there is.
Connie, I just want to make sure I understand. Are you saying that at the next policy meeting, we'll also discuss the actual report that is going to come to the board?
If that's the request of the committee, then yes, I'll make sure and check in with staff and we'll talk about that there. Absolutely.
It is.
So we can talk about how that can be accomplished.
What it's going to look like,
Yeah.
perhaps. But let me mention that since these are agendized and open to the public, Abe, you're welcome to join us at that policy committee meeting.
I think that then we would have more than our, we would have 4 board members rather than 3.
No, it's an official meeting.
I don't know that it's an official meeting of the board.
I'll
I'll defer.
I'm pretty sure that he can attend, but I'm no Brown Act expert.
you know my opinion. I mean, I don't need to attend. You know my opinion on that. And to me, if you have some kind of a document that shows what the process when a person puts in for travel, whether it's statewide or out of state, what they have to go through in applying for that travel request, which is finally approved by the chancellor, then I think it would show more of our defending to the general public. I mean, they want transparency. That is transparency as far as I can see. So that's my argument, and the board can do what the majority wants to do, and that's just my position, and I would not support the document as it is. So that's just my opinion.
So Chair DeMartini, I can hold this language for our next board policy committee meeting, make sure that we don't lose the language that we hear. We'll leave it on the agenda and insert it into the agenda the way the California, but we'll make sure and bring this to our board policy committee, and if the committee wishes, then they can move forward that recommendation again after hearing all of the information.
I've got a question, Connie. Is this a result of some abuse of travel?
I am not aware of any abuse of travel, and Trustee Rojas had asked that question of why that came forward, and I believe the position was just, we feel it's an oversight body, and so we would like to see that level of approval. I am paraphrasing, so.
No, that's fine.
Is that about right?
Paraphrase.
I was on the county board for 8 years, and when I got on the board, I asked them what the travel policy was, and they said, you go where you want, tell the secretary to make the arrangements. and there was never any abuse.
I think that there's some assumptions that we recommended outside of California because of abuse. I think it's more that we want information. We have no idea how many people go to conferences or where they're going. And we just need information. And perhaps if we determine this report that we're supposed to be getting monthly, that might be enough. But we need to know what we don't know.
All right. I will take that direction, thank you, and proceed in the way that I mentioned. All right, and so the next and final one is 7700 whistleblower protection. And so all of you on the board should have received some recommended language that was put forward with a commitment to fairness and respect for all members of the YCCD community. This language was proposed by Trustee DeMartini with the intent to provide due process rights for accused in Board Policy 7700. Again, that should have been previously provided to you. The Board Policy Committee understands this has been a topic previously, and therefore seeks the full board's direction to engage legal counsel to obtain an objective legal opinion in this matter.
And to expand on that, some of the things I suggested, I certainly don't want us to do anything that, violates the law. I want due process for people who are accused. But it may turn out, and that's why you believe that we need a legal opinion, is that some of the things that are normally due process, like to know your accuser, that's normal due process. But in the special situation of a university whistleblowing thing, it's possible that legally the college can't divulge that information. So that's the sort of legal thing that we're looking for. But I truly want to treat all people fairly, and this policy does not.
So with the full board's direction, Chancellor's office would send that out for an objective kind of legal opinion and bring that opinion back to the board.
Is that all right with board members to get clarification on that? Okay, let's do that. All right, now we need to go.
I think those are all.
All right, so
There's no vote on them.
does anyone who is not on the committee have some suggestions for the first reading or comments or?
Did we approve the minutes, our previous minutes of the?
At our meeting, we approved it.
Okay, great.
So we've agreed to delay a decision on the two first readings that are going to go to the Finance Committee. We are going to sort of hold the travel one in abeyance until we'll come back next time with the recommendation. And we're not doing anything tonight on the whistleblower until we get some legal information. Otherwise, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that we are going to approve all the first reading unless there's some objection from anyone here at the board.
And I don't think we need to approve.
We don't need a motion, but we do need to have consensus that this has completed the first reading. Is that fine?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was a lot of work this time, Connie, and so appreciate all your work and your minutes. It was very helpful. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right. I believe we're now at 7.3. Columbia College, thank you. The institutional self-evaluation report. So since Brian's not here, are you the default person to say anything, or how do you want to handle this? Advise me.
We gave you the what we hope is the final draft,
Yes.
the final version prior, and we walked the board through it in the study session, as you mentioned earlier on.
And
so we're now asking for your approval for us to send it on its way, and you found that one remaining error that we all will find as soon as we go.
right. No, it's a very long document. I don't read well at the computer. It's because my focal point is not suited, but the presentation that Brian gave was just very detailed and
Thorough.
so if there's no,
I'll make a motion.
all right, it's been moved that the Board of Trustees approve the Columbia College Institutional Self-Evaluation Report for submission to the ACCJC. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved by Darren Garrett and seconded by Leslie Beggs. No more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No? Okay, the motion has carried. Hope ACCJC likes it as much as we do. And then let's move to the same situation for Modesto Junior College. James, do you wish to say anything more? Or Jill, or, I mean, you don't have to, it's just,
So I will just say that because it was final, I did have a print copy, and I was so excited to see it and know that it's done and to look at it. And we are not as thick as we were 6 years ago, which has been the goal of the commission, to shorten these. And so I felt good about that. And I thought, as long as I don't open it, there are no errors. And I flipped it open, and the very first thing I saw was that the font was different in a header. Oh. And Chair DiMartini, not only was one of your names misspelled, but both of them. And so we corrected that immediately. But
thank you for catching that.
yes, I just want to extend my thanks to those who are here and not here, who did so much heavy lifting in getting this together. And it absolutely is a huge team effort. But in particular, I want to thank Dr. Nancy Sill, our faculty accreditation chair, who's here tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion to,
So moved.
thank you. It's been moved by Darren Garrett and seconded by
I'll second.
Leslie Beggs that we approve the Modesto Junior College self-evaluation report for submission to ACCJC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion is carried unanimously. Now we're to 8.1. This is the time for comments from the board or requests to place something on a future agenda. Anybody want to go first?
Major E bond, I'm sorry. We have a contingency fund. And at the football stadium, we're doing some renovations, but the press box is an absolute disaster. And I would think that maybe we would consider renovating it through the major E bond, to bring it up to standard. I think it would be good PR and would show a good faith in trying to promote athletics at the football stadium.
Okay, Jill, you've had a suggestion, and I will leave it there. You and Abe can discuss that. I'm not sure how large a group usually makes those kind of decisions. I imagine it's several people, correct? Okay, so. Okay, but actually, I'm pleased that you brought something up. Did you have any activities during the past month that you wanted to share?
Sure, I'll start it off. On the 15th, we had our study session with accreditation, and like you mentioned earlier, that was a great presentation. I really give kudos to Brian and James. Couldn't see him behind the gentleman there. And then I had to leave a little bit early because I attended the Valley Insurance JPA, our risk management. And then that evening I attended the Offbeat Hip Hop program in support of that program. And then on the 20th I attended the Stanislaus County School Board Committee.
Great.
With that. And that was my total excitement for the month of July, June.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Don, do you have any report?
I did not have a good month, and you don't want to hear it.
And I'm sure that everyone here would like to join the full board in extending their sympathies to Don for the loss of his wife. So just, I'm thrilled that he's here tonight, and the information on the funeral is in the newspaper, if you care to check that out. Leslie.
I'm used to being last. I'm just so thrilled that our new chancellor's here. I'm glad we had a chance to welcome you. And as I said, I had questions this time. He answered them. I appreciate that greatly. Okay, so since the last board meeting on the 14th of June, this is a short list. I attended the study session on the accreditation ICER reports, also known as the institutional self-evaluation reports. See, my acronym list is growing. And I attended the Policies and Procedures Committee meeting on Monday, July 10th. As far as items that I'm requesting, since we have a new chancellor, I'm just going to get these on the record. One of the things that I'm requesting, which came up today, was the monthly report of staff travel in a format that normal people can understand. And I'd like to see a copy of the Farrelly contracts, the report about crimes, and also I think it would be really helpful. I've asked for an organizational chart like you have at the beginning of the MJC report that shows sort of our structure. Did we do that for the last accreditation report? Then that's all I need. I just wanted to be able to compare our structures from 7 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever it was, with today. So we can kind of see whether we're getting bigger or smaller or how things are being allocated, sort of a point of reference. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. John.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, although you did attend the study session on accreditation, didn't you?
Yes.
I attend so many things. I can't remember everything I attend. I mean, seriously.
Lynn.
So I attended the study session on the accreditation and the policy and procedure meeting, and I met with Dr. Fairchilds. And I would also like to welcome Mr. Henry Young as our chancellor. Congratulations.
Darren.
So I too attended the board study session on the 15th, and then also on the 15th I attended the Woodland West annual neighborhood watch meeting, and it was a great meeting, well attended, and I want to thank our campus safety staff for also being there. So John, I'm sure you had a hand in that, so thank you for having them there, and it was well received. So it was nice for them to be there. So that's all I have. Other than I'd like to thank both our vice presidents at MJC and at Columbia for all their work on accreditation. And James, I've said this before and I'll tell you again, you got a late start, but you came through a winner in the end. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And that was not, that you put a lot of work into that, so thank you.
And Nancy, if you'd been presenting, we'd be thanking you too. You just did the work behind the scenes. We appreciate it. I will join and offer again my thanks to Henry for becoming our new chancellor, and this board is anxious to work with you, and I'm sure that the staff is also interested in helping our district move forward under your leadership. So thank you. And I attended the study session on accreditation, the Policy and Procedure Committee meeting on Monday, and I also on Monday had a little bit of agenda review time and a meeting with Henry. So at this time, did you want to say something or not?
If I may just offer just a few observation on tonight's meeting, and which reinforces my earlier comments. I'm really grateful for the great discussion that we have had tonight, because it is through the discussion that we uncover doubts, we provide answers, we strengthen our faith in the system that we have, that we can get past differences, and which ultimately leads to strengthening our organization. So it started by me sitting in the policy committee and seeing that the committee members had spent a great amount of time preparing for that meeting that ran over, and it was such a productive meeting. And so that augurs well, a great beginning. And tonight's meeting just reinforces my belief, my initial impression, that we can work together and build a great organization. So I'm thankful to be here again.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm sure that if you haven't had the chance yet to meet Henry, you can come right up after this meeting. I'd like to announce that our next regular meeting will be August 9th, and the closed session will begin at 3:30 and the regular session at 5:30, and this meeting is adjourned.
Jim?
Yes.